away. Ethan, please answer me!
Ethan Cole had spent 7 years refusing to enter Raven Creek Forest. His sister Ava disappeared there during a photography trip, leaving behind only her camera and one unanswered emergency call. Tonight, her voice returned through an old Ranger frequency. "Ethan, don't come looking for me." Then static swallowed her words. He stared into the trees, knowing the message made no sense. Ava had been officially dead for 6 years already. He followed the signal along an abandoned logging road and found Ava's red jacket hanging from a cedar branch. It was soaked with fresh rain, yet the tree canopy above was completely dry. Ethan touched the sleeve and noticed something inside the pocket. A photograph. It showed Ava standing beside the same tree 7 years earlier. Behind her stood Ethan himself. The terrifying part was that Ethan had never visited this forest before tonight. Ethan nearly dropped the photograph when his radio whispered again. "You finally remembered." He turned toward the trees. Nothing moved. Then a second voice spoke through the radio, using his own voice. "Don't believe her." Ethan realized someone, or something, was listening to every word. He switched the radio off, but his voice continued whispering from the surrounding forest. Then footsteps began circling him, perfectly matching his walking rhythm. He ran until he reached an abandoned ranger cabin hidden beneath giant cedars. Inside, dozens of photographs covered the walls. Each showed missing hikers returning from the forest. They looked normal, smiled normally, and stood beside their families. But every photograph contained the same detail: their reflections were facing the wrong direction. Ethan found one final photograph. It showed Ava outside the cabin. Written underneath were 4 words: "She isn't Ava anymore." A knock came from the cabin door. 3 slow taps. Ethan raised his flashlight. "Ethan?" Ava whispered from outside. Her voice sounded exactly as he remembered. He opened the door halfway. Ava stood in the rain wearing the red jacket. She looked older, thinner, but unmistakably human. Ethan started crying. Then Ava smiled and asked, "Do you remember what happened to Dad?" Ethan froze because nobody had ever known that secret. Ava entered the cabin and locked the door. She told Ethan the forest contained something ancient that learned people by watching them. Every missing person eventually returned as a perfect copy. Ethan asked how she survived. Ava looked toward the photographs and whispered, "I didn't." Suddenly, the cabin mirror showed Ava standing behind Ethan while the real Ava remained beside him. Ethan slowly turned. The real Ava was smiling. The reflection was screaming. Ethan smashed the mirror. Ava screamed as black roots burst through the cabin floor. They fled through a rear door into the forest while something enormous moved between the trees. Ava grabbed Ethan's hand and led him toward an old fire tower. She claimed the creature could not cross an area burned by lightning years ago. Ethan followed, but noticed Ava's footprints never touched the mud. She was walking above it without realizing. At the fire tower, Ethan confronted her. Ava finally admitted the truth. She had died 7 years ago after discovering the creature beneath the forest. The thing copied her body but couldn't copy everything. Ethan asked what it wanted now. Ava pointed toward the valley. Hundreds of tiny lights appeared between the trees. Every light belonged to a returned person. Then Ethan realized the creature wasn't trapped inside the forest. It was building an army. Ava told Ethan there was one way to stop it. The original creature lived beneath the oldest cedar, where the first lightning strike awakened it. Destroying that tree would destroy every copy connected to it. Ethan reached for his knife, but Ava stopped him. She said the creature had already copied Ethan. He looked into the tower window. His reflection was smiling while he wasn't. Then the reflection raised its hand and tapped against the glass from inside. Ethan refused to look away. He remembered something Ava once told him as children: a photograph can lie, but a shadow cannot. He looked down. His shadow was missing. Ava's shadow was missing too. The entire tower stood without shadows despite the bright moonlight. Ethan understood the creature had already replaced them both. He grabbed Ava and jumped from the tower platform onto a lower roof, escaping as the forest began screaming. They reached the oldest cedar just before dawn. Its trunk was enormous, hollow, and covered with hundreds of human photographs growing beneath the bark. Ethan found one showing himself as a child. Ava whispered that destroying the tree would erase every copy, including her. Ethan hesitated. Then the hollow witness emerged behind them, 11 feet tall, covered in wet bark and countless blinking eyes. It spoke using their mother's voice and asked them to stay. Ethan grabbed the axe and attacked the cedar. The hollow witness charged, moving impossibly fast. Ava pushed Ethan aside and was struck through the chest by a root. Ethan screamed her name and continued chopping. The tree split open, revealing hundreds of faces beneath the bark. All of them screamed simultaneously. The creature collapsed into black roots as sunrise reached the forest. Ethan held Ava until she disappeared into dust between his fingers. Ethan walked out of Raven Creek alone after sunrise. No emergency teams found the cabin, the tower, or the ancient cedar. Officials blamed the strange photographs on vandalism and declared Ava's case permanently closed. Ethan returned home carrying the only photograph that survived. It showed Ava smiling beside their childhood house. For the first time, Ethan noticed something wrong. The photograph had been taken yesterday. And behind Ava stood someone who looked exactly like him. Ethan burned the photograph immediately. That night, his security camera activated by itself. On the monitor, Ava stood outside his house. She looked exactly as she did 7 years ago. Ethan refused to open the door. Ava smiled through the camera and whispered, "You forgot something." Behind her stood dozens of people from Raven Creek. Then the camera switched angles. Someone was standing inside Ethan's bedroom, wearing his face. Ethan turned slowly toward his bedroom. Nothing stood there. He checked the monitor again. The figure was gone. Then his phone received a photograph. It showed Ethan sleeping in his bed from an angle inside the room. Timestamp, tomorrow morning. He stared at the image until a notification appeared beneath it. Memory successfully transferred. Ethan looked toward the hallway. Ava's voice whispered from the darkness, "Now you understand why nobody ever comes back alone." Ethan slowly raises his camera and photographs the hallway. The flash reveals nothing. He checks the picture. A tall figure stands behind him, smiling. Ethan turns around. Empty room. His phone rings. The caller ID says Ava Cole. He answers. Silence. Then Ethan hears his own voice whisper, "Don't turn around." His eyes widen. Behind him, something breathes. The screen cuts black. If you were Ethan, what would you do next? Tell us below. If you were Ethan, would you turn around? Tell us in the comments. If this nightmare kept you watching, leave a like. Subscribe for more original Hollywood horror stories.